Hello and welcome to Fantasy Hockey Picks and Bets here on the Leo Media Network. I'm Matt Moody, joined by DJ Mitchell to go through the Thursday NHL action. DJ, how you doing?
I put the winter hat on. It decided to be winter in late April here in Rochester. We got about 6 inches of snow, about 28 degrees right now. So yeah, very cold, but what will keep me up is this 10-game slate with a lot of news, a lot of notes, a lot to get to. So I won't harp on the weather that no one cares about. Matt, how's everything going with you?
It's going great. I feel like Tuesday was a pretty good betting night for me. I hit a nice over on the Pittsburgh, New Jersey game.
Oh, barely. You had the 12, right? You had the 12 goal over under.
Yeah, no, definitely. That was good. And then I had my biggest one was a Carolina money line and Toronto Vancouver over. And that one hit for a nice little chunk of change. So had a great night there. And obviously a lot of the players we talked about scored goals. Just unfortunately, all of them scored goals. So you had to have like the perfect combo. But yeah, I mean, fortunately with 10 games on the slate here, you do have the Fantasy Hockey Picks and Bets show presented by Prize Picks to take you through things. So before we do that, of course, I got to talk to you about Prize Picks. So go to prizepicks.com and use promo code MMN when you sign up for up to $100 match deposit bonus. It's really a simple game. What you do is you pick the over or the under on selected fantasy scores. So for tonight's slate, we actually have a couple of players to get you started. I'm really in on this Brady Tkachuk over 3.6 fantasy score. Now, if you need a refresher, you get 3 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist, and a half point for a block or a shot on goal. Brady Tkachuk in 5 games versus the Canucks this season has 5 shots per game. That already gets you to 2.5. He just needs a point. He needs a point to cross that 3.6 threshold. I say he does that. I think that number is far too low for a guy. He can get there with 8 shots on goal alone. He's just an absolute monster shooting wise, and Vancouver gives it up to absolutely everybody. And DJ,
Yes.
I will bring you in for your Joe Pavelski.
Yeah, I think Joe Pavelski's back. We've been talking about it. We've been mentioning it. Like, eventually he's going to come back to that early season form. I think it's here. He has 4 goals in his past 5 games. He's playing the Detroit Red Wings. That should be almost enough for you to convince you that he might be a good play here. But, I like the opportunity to get him. I hope Rupe Hintz is okay and can come back. He did not play on Tuesday. But that entire line is one of my favorite stacks of the night. And if you're playing, you're already playing, like I said, a lot of us are playing DraftKings. We're looking at sports books. This is just another vessel for you to take all that information in and use it. And, you're really doing yourself a disservice by not getting over to Prize Picks and looking through the board and seeing if you find some guys in some fantasy sports point spots that, you really, really like or really don't like. Sometimes the information gap in hockey is really high. So you can get a guy that maybe gets taken off a power play that you can go under on. Then you find another guy that gets bumped up to a power play and get the over. So definitely check that out. Anything else you wanted to mention before we could?
Yeah, no, good stuff, Deej. So make sure when you head over to prizepicks.com, use promo code MMN, as in Mayo Media Network, when you sign up. You can actually pick up to 5 selections per entry. So, there's 2 to get you started. But we'll mention a few others that we like as we go through the games. So again, use promo code MMN on sign up for an up to $100 match bonus. All right, let's talk about this Thursday slate. Let's just start with probably one of the best games of the night for fantasy, Toronto at Winnipeg. This isn't starting at 7:00, though the game is in Winnipeg. So, pretty nice though, I would say. Toronto minus 129 on the road. Winnipeg plus 112. DJ, what are your thoughts here? As you can hear my cat in the back.
I was going to say, is that your shoulder? Cat? Oh my God,
right
what is the cat doing? I saw him running around and I was like, if you're not on the YouTube channel, you just missed, I was so confused looking in your background. I was scared for a second. I'm like, are you about to get murdered? I'm like, oh no, it's a cat. Anyways though, yeah, we got Toronto at Winnipeg. Feel like we haven't talked about Winnipeg in a little while. And the big news here is it sounds like Blake Wheeler is back. He should be in, unless if there's some sort of a dramatic change in the plan there. But it's all but confirmed. He practiced with Connor and Shifley as a line one unit, which is, I think, pretty fun. Wheeler's 4,200. That entire line, I think, is a really good value in general. But, more to the point in this game, 6 over under. I slightly lean towards the over. I don't think it's going to come as much of a shock. There should be a huge opportunity for a ton of shots from each team. Toronto's goaltending has fallen right off the rails. Winnipeg, it's hit or miss. But I guess the one thing, and I talked about this over on the Morning Skate podcast, but I'm going to assume I have about 5 lineups tomorrow. Every lineup that I don't take a single player from Toronto on is going to have the starting goalie for Winnipeg, because Toronto's going to put up probably over the 35 shots that you would need to get the bonus. If that goalie gets the win and the bonus, it's pretty likely they could be in the optimal lineup. Obviously, if you're stacking Toronto, probably don't go with Hellebuck or Brossoit against them, but that's one angle for DFS that I really like tomorrow, and then building around from there. So with that being said, is there anything you want to get to preliminarily in this game? Like I'm kind of getting to, I don't hate the Winnipeg side at plus money at home, with the goaltending being what it is in Toronto. I think I might just stay away from the money lines because I think it really is a true toss-up. And I slightly like the over, but I can be convinced. So Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I want to do the over or the under here, because, I do kind of agree with you. It's a great spot for skaters and for goalies. Like it's more of just the shots on goal, I think, that really interests me in this one. And obviously the DFS pricing on a guy like Wheeler, who's historically been a 5.5, 6K guy, being 4,300, great, go for it. I do think with William Nylander playing, he was expected to not play on Tuesday and wound up in the lineup. And he came
literally
back,
said he wasn't playing.
Right. And, the coach was like,
play.
Coach was like, he's going to be a scratch, but apparently he learned his lesson. He came out, had another strong game. Nylander's been incredible lately. So, I think it's almost not that I want Nylander props because of that, but I want John Tavares props because of it. It's just something where Tavares and Nylander just have such a great connection going right now. Their power play has been retooled to basically feature all three of those guys. Both of those guys with Matthews, Marner, and Riley. So it's just the perfect storm, I think, for, just offensive concentration here. Tavares has scored plus 215 right now on the DraftKings Sportsbook. William Nylander plus 195. Like Tavares should probably be a better number than, Nylander. So I'm taking the plus 215 on Tavares. I'm riding his hot streak. And I like the shots on goal on Kyle Connor, Austin Matthews, even Mitch Marner. Like, honestly, this game will have so many shots, I think. And, maybe Hellebuck stops them all. Maybe Jack Campbell regains his form. But shot props, that doesn't matter. So sign me up for a high-paced, up-tempo game here with a lot of shot prop overs in this one.
He hasn't really shown it as much as of late, but when you're playing with Scheifele and Wheeler, like he should be the focal point of shooting, even though Scheifele has been a bit of the shooting. I guess he's just gotten a lot better. I can still go with it. Is there anything else in this game you want to mention before moving on?
Just some, light cleanup. A guy like Nick Robertson wound up on the fourth line last time out. So I don't really think he's, a great splurge player or anything like that. Like there's so much value in DFS that you don't really need to stretch it too thin. So we can go from there into Philly at the Rangers. The shivers I'm getting going down my spine are from the previous matchups between these teams. They did not go well for the Philadelphia Flyers here. On the road, plus 130. You can get the Rangers minus 152. How do you feel about this Rangers team taking on a team who they've handled quite well, I would say, so far this season?
Yeah, I think Prize Picks may have purposely left Zibanejad off because it was the auto over bet odds for that. So yeah, I mean, no, it's going to be something where I did not expect to see Zibanejad at minus 105 to score. Like even the books seem to be taking it into consideration. A guy that's kind of cooled off a little bit, and especially in that Islanders game, they looked abysmal. The Zibanejad line gave up 3 goals against to the Islanders, so they're definitely not seeing it the same way. I think that the Flyers, I'm not gonna say Islanders again, but I think the Flyers aren't getting like any respect here. I'm probably not touching the money line on this game. Just doesn't really seem worth it to me. But the over, I do feel pretty confident in. I think the Flyers have a little bit more offensive upside. I kind of always been a little bit bullish on them, even though the goaltending has been atrocious. I still like what they got going. They got a guy named Wade Allison that's plus 400 to score, which I don't think is the most egregious pricing in the world, but he was playing on I guess one of the 2 power plays, and they kind of roll 2 units with Hayes and Farabee. So you never know. I mean, the minutes were only 13 minutes last game, but he had a 16 before that. If it's a tight game, high-paced game, he might get a few more minutes, and I think that he has a decent chance to score. It's not insane.
Yeah, no Jake Trouba. No Jake Trouba either. Well. So, just slight bump there to the Flyers guys. But I mean, it all comes down to like, what do you do with Mika Zibanejad? Minus 105 to score a goal. That's an Austin Matthews, Ovechkin level, prop there. And it's crazy because he just absolutely smashed. I don't know if you have the previous games up, but double, dueling hat tricks basically in both of those games, like 3 assists in a game with a hat. Like the best games of the season have been Mika Zibanejad against the Flyers from any player. So, it's something where I'm not on it, but I think it's absolutely something that you could ride and say, hey, they have some sort of psychological or even strategic edge, and take advantage of it there. So I still kind of like the Rangers money line. 153 doesn't feel like too bad of a number to be laying for a team that I think is really good in the Rangers. Like, it didn't work on Tuesday for sure. They got absolutely steamrolled by the Islanders, but I think this could be a bit of a bounce back spot. And minus 152 actually is the line that I will take here in this one. Any thoughts on the over 6.5 or the under?
I like the over.
Okay. Let's go from there to Boston at Buffalo. Keep things moving. Buffalo plus 240 home dogs. Boston minus 286 on the road. Boston took care of business on Tuesday, winning 2-0. I kind of feel like that's going to be a similar scoreline to this one. So I feel like the under 5.5 is a good number. It's actually not confirmed who the Sabres will be playing a goal, whether it'll be Dustin Tokarski, who's been playing really well as of late, or if it'll be Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen or even Michael Hauser, I think, is still on the team. But they have a back-to-back. Is that right? So it'll be one
it's of them. Thursday, Friday. I still think it'll be Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, and as a Sabres fan, as I'm sure you all know at this point, it pains me to say that he's been really, really bad, even at the AHL level this year. Sub 900 in the AHL. Generally speaking, that doesn't lead to success in the pros. So I'm not feeling confident in the Sabres to even keep 5 pucks out of the net themselves. So if Ukko is in, I'm probably going to jam the over here. And I feel bad saying it because there's nothing I want more than the Sabres to have a good goaltender. And I think a lot of fans had a lot of faith in him coming through the ranks, but he's just not there at the professional level yet. So I'm very in on Boston kind of rolling the Sabres here. So I'm, minus 286 seems like just not really worth what to get bet. I'd rather just grab any of these to score odds for the top guys, because I think they'll end up getting 4 or 5. Just grabbing one of those and moving on in my parlay. Or maybe the Taylor Hall shot prop. I think that's probably the easiest. If the Sabres do get rolled, I doubt they run the line one, the Marchand Bergeron line, Pasternak too much. It does seem like when they're winning, they're just kind of keeping it at bay and keeping the minutes somewhat low for a somewhat aging line. But irregardless, they could definitely score themselves. So that's my kind of take on this game. I think it'll be, pretty handily. I don't even mind taking the puck line for the Bruins. I think that's very much in play here. So
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
Matt Grzelcyk returned too for the Bruins. So like our concerns of the previous couple of weeks where they had no McAvoy, no Grzelcyk, it was really just a struggle. Obviously getting, their top pair back, I think is really good. Jeremy Swayman, rookie goalie, is confirmed to start Thursday, but he's performed really well. So not really a drop off or anything there. Like there could be, with the Tokarski playing well and Luukkonen just not right now. So I definitely do agree. I think the Bruins are where you want to attack. Kind of feel like the goal prop on Pasternak's a bit rich, just given the way Pasternak's been playing lately. I kind of feel like getting Marchand at plus 170. I'm feeling that. He's been a bit more shot reliant as of late, or I should say reliable. And of course, he's looking to feed Bergeron. But Marchand's been taking some shots himself, multiple shots in 8 of his last 9 games, and 4, the most recent one, 3 the game before that. He has 3 goals in those 2 games. So I think Marchand's the guy that I want to take if I'm looking at, these goal props. And of course, shot props on a guy like Marchand are in play. The thing with Pastrnak is, like you mentioned, the minutes are tough. His shots are slightly down, and I just don't really think there's a great value on his line at the current moment until we sort of see some regained form. Any like pure punts on the Sabres side for either DFS or betting who you think, if they get like a over 1.5 shot prop or something you could see going with?
I mean, all of the Sabres are a punt. So
sure.
If you like any of them, if you just go to like utility and Buffalo, the most expensive player is 4,600. I doubt I touch Buffalo and DFS. Just don't really think they're gonna hold a stick to Boston again. I think if I was gonna take one player and put like a highlight on them, it would probably still be Middlestad. Just he's looked awesome, or Cousins at 2,600. Like one of those two. I mean, Cousins coming off the 7 shot on goal game, 16 minutes, power play 2, I believe. I can double check that.
So power play 2. So Cousins coming back from injury has been great. It's not just last game where he's been good. He actually has 19 shots in those 6 games since he returned. So
it's kind of like Middlestad led the team for forwards on minutes. He power play 1, but just isn't the shooter.
His price is getting up there. That's
it's going up. Cousins has shown to be more of a shooter, not crazy amount, but has just not getting the power play time. I think overall, I'm just going to fade it because I think there's enough value on this slate that I don't need to force the Buffalo Sabres. But that would be what I would say.
Okay. Speaking of value, I think we do have one of those spots in the next game. So we go to Washington at the Islanders. Of course, Washington, we know, what they're up to. It's the OV show, whatever else. Relatively ugly game. But on this Islanders side, we're getting a home favorite, minus 117, 5.5 over under. DJ, kind of feel like you're on the Islanders side of this game, but what pieces, are you looking at, and why do you like the Islanders side?
I'm kind of just the first thing I noticed here. Brock Nelson, 4,100, but plus 190 to score. I mean, that just seems a little bit. I mean, the thing about the Islanders is like they're just as cheap as the Sabres almost, and then that is just not correct. So the Islanders, obviously, Barzal being a little bit out of the 6,400 makes some sense there, but the next forward is 4,800 Everly, and then 4,100 Nelson, which means that you can get an entire line stack with power play upside for unbelievably cheap. So the last game out, it was Peugeot, Bailey, and Beauvillier kind of leading the way and being a stack to have. I don't mind going right back to the well there. Peugeot and Beauvillier line up on the power play. Beauvillier scored on the power play, had 2 assists, 5-on-5. Bailey's on the other unit. Really, Bailey at 3K, Peugeot, I think he's 37. Like all of these guys are super duper duper cheap. Personally, I don't love grabbing any of these guys to score individually. Just really, really hard to pinpoint. I guess if I had to gun to head, I might just take Barzal at plus 230, just because he's such an elite player that I think it makes some sense. The rest, shot prop wise, is also really tough for me. I just don't like it because the minutes are so spread that you're not going to get any sort of major concentration. So I'm not sure.
I would counter that with the idea that assuming that Oliver Wahlstrom is out again for this one, there's actually sort of like this big vacuum of power play shots that second unit needs to use up. And that's why I think a guy like Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri, who, are second power play and second line together, like they got to be taking those shots now. Kyle Palmieri's been shooting a lot with his new team on the power play. It's only 7 games. It's a limited sample. But, you look at shots per 60 on the power play, and it's Wahlstrom, of course, because he's been shooting a ton. And then Palmieri's second on the team per minute, while he's out there. So I think that I really like going to that, Nelson Palmieri well. And I think that Kyle Palmieri at plus 210 isn't the worst, goal odds in the world. So, just obviously see if Wahlstrom's playing. But I do think that's somewhat of a little edge that pushes it toward a value. And on the Islanders side of things, we just saw what they did to the Rangers. Of course, I am an unabashed, Ovechkin fan. I love the pickup of Mantha. I think Mantha can keep it going, but I kind of like the Islanders side. I kind of like the under. Maybe put the Caps on pause for a game. So let's go.
These two teams have the exact same record. Just impressive. 29,
13, and 4. Yeah,
that's pretty impressive. Last thing, wouldn't touch the over under. 5.5 is perfect. You just don't touch it. I think
this game will end with exactly 5.5 goals scored.
Yes,
that's true.
Let's move it on over.
Columbus at Tampa. I believe I think we talked about this exact game maybe a few weeks ago, and we were like, oh well, Tampa's going to roll them. And then Tampa didn't roll them, and then we were like, what's going on with Tampa?
And then they played again, and I was like, well, Tampa's going to roll them now. They were just waiting.
Yeah, and, Tampa hasn't really found their stride yet. They beat the Canes once on Monday, and then on Tuesday, Canes took it to them. I mean, that was a a beatdown. They played Vasilevsky both games. Maybe they play Vasilevsky again here, but we could see a Curtis McElhinney game as well. Like that's certainly a possibility given it's Columbus. So I don't know if I'm all that scared of taking really good odds plus 230 on this Columbus team, which they got smoked by Florida. I get it, but they're still doing things that I like. Torts, he healthy scratched Max Domi. Like, I don't care about Max Domi. He's out there putting Patrick Laine and Bjorkstrand and Roslovic and Cam Atkinson all in the first power play. Like, he's using the guys the way they should be used. Atkinson hitting 20 minutes last game in a 5-1 blowout. Like, I'm kind of about this upset alert on Columbus. So I don't know if you're feeling as ambitious as I am, but I kind of feel like there's an argument here. But what are your thoughts on this game?
I definitely think there's an argument. I mean, with these odds, it seems, fair enough. I just don't think Columbus is very good. And I think their goaltending is pretty bad. So I'm not going to bet the Tampa side just because it's just not worth it. But I do think it's very, very worth it to get some of this Tampa exposure in DFS because Braden Point's 5,600. I mean, he is the most expensive forward for Tampa at 5,600. I mean, that is just not something I'd ever thought I'd say for Tampa Bay is that their most expensive forward, again, it's 5,600 on DraftKings, and it's Braden Point. The power plays have gone into the blender a bit. So you get Barry Boulay, first power play, 3,300. You take Victor Hedman, you put that stack together, and you still have a ton of room to get any other pieces you want from conceivably better DFS games. With all that being said, Prize Picks, Braden Point's over, 3.5, 3.6, I mean. I definitely take that over there. He is shooting again. I really like him to score.
And scoring.
Yeah. I mean, I like the first goal point. I do like it. It's plus 900 though, which is not what I thought I'd get it at. I thought I could get it more at like a plus 1,200, but it's okay. Very in on that, but overall, I think this game I lean towards the under pretty heavily here. So I'm not going to go crazy. I think the 3-man is like the maximum stack I'd take and just hope that Braden Point and Barry Boulay hook up on the power play. Victor Hedman gets involved, and then Point gets another one. They just take it like 3-1. I kind of like that angle on this game.
If you don't want the long odds of the Columbus, money line, but you're feeling a little bit ambitious, Alfie Bjorkstrand to score plus 280. that seems like a pretty good number. I mean, he's
Yeah,
coming
that
off
seems
of a
really
7 shot on goal game against Florida there, 4 shots and a goal, the most recent game against Florida. And on the year, he has in 6 games, he has 15 shots on goal, scored twice in matchups with Tampa already. So plus 280 for a guy of Bjorkstrand's caliber. I just think that's really solid. You know, a guy like Line at plus 230, like he doesn't quite see as many minutes as Bjorkstrand does. So like it sort of feels like the perfect mix of role, talent, and just opportunity for Bjorkstrand here. So I kind of, I'm really digging his odds at plus 280, and maybe you could even shop that around to find a better line. I think you might be able to find one. So
yeah, definitely
that's
agree.
sort of where I'm focusing on Bjorkstrand if I'm looking at this Columbus side. So let's go to Carolina at Florida, kind of just swapping matchups here. Carolina heading into Sunrise as Columbus heads to Tampa. So on the Florida side of things, we don't know the status of Patrick Hornqvist. That's kind of a big deal. It seemed like he was rumored to be just rested on Tuesday, but it could have been an injury. We didn't really get much besides day to day. So remains to be seen what happens there. Though without him, Sam Bennett, Jonathan Huberdeau, Anthony Duclair had a great game. This game is actually Florida is a slight underdog at home, plus 102 on the money line.
Yeah,
kind of feeling that minus 118 for Carolina. What are your thoughts here? And I will also go on the over in this game. I know these teams have been playing pretty well defensively, but they've also been playing pretty well offensively. And so this is one where I think, the offense wins out.
Yeah, I do like the over, and it's going to be really hard to give like sound betting advice on this game just because there's so many question marks around Florida. I mean, for example, Owen Tippett was on the first line with Barkov because Marshman got hurt. So will that happen again? I have no idea. So I really think that we're going to see a lot of changes. I'm hopeful that Hornqvist is okay and maybe can return. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. Obviously, Gusev has been a staple of many punt value takes. What if we get Vetrano up with Barkov? Well, what if we get something? So it's so hard to know exactly what's going to come as a puck drop. But I think that the safer kind of ways of looking at it are just take the over. In any capacity, I do like it here. I think this game has a lot of offensive upside. So that, and then Florida plus money at home. I mean, I don't think they are anymore, but they were the number one team in the NHL at one time, like not long ago, and they're still really, really good. So I don't really get it. They're also going to get Mackenzie Weegar back, almost definitely. A big boost to the defense. That's been, I wouldn't even say bad without him, but just not quite as good. So yeah, I'm very in on all of that right there. And then for shot prop overs, is there anyone I kind of missed it on last game? I did like Point as a shot over, but is there anyone else you wanted to mention in this game?
Yeah, no, in this game, it's obviously, Svechnikov is the guy you can play. I obviously think, we've made the argument so many times on him, it's not really worth going to again. But I do think I will take some, speculative, we could even get morning skate from them, but if you're listening to this, we don't know who's playing there, I will probably just, make a bet on Owen Tippett, Frankie Vetrano. Like they all just have really good goal odds, plus 250 or higher for those guys who are just massive rate shooters who should be stepping into sizable roles. Barkov is a great shooter and a great scorer, but plus 155 for a guy who's, also willing to pass a lot. I just think, I will take some of these secondary guys, and Barkov will have a 2-3 assist night and get these guys there. So that's sort of my approach. On the season, these teams have played 6 times. The expected goals numbers are absolutely through the roof when these two teams meet up, and the overs hit 4 out of the 6 times. So the only losses being a 3-2 Carolina win on March the 1st, and the most recent matchup, a 3-0 Carolina win on April 8th. So other games have all gone over 5.5. I think this game is ripe with offense, and I like a lot of the overs and goal props because of the nice uncertainty that we get from Florida.
All right. Are you ready to move on to New Jersey at Pittsburgh?
Yeah, take it away.
So I guess, we would not be doing a good service to everyone if we didn't talk about last game's Craziest stat maybe of all time. It was the only time in NHL history a team scored 5 or more goals in the third period and lost in New Jersey. They scored 6. Tristan Jarry went from the DFS goalie to have to the DFS goalie not to have. Very, very fast. Matt learned all too well. Had the assist, had the shutout, and gave up 6 goals promptly.
Can confirm.
Yeah, can confirm. I'm not gonna get too crazy here. If I'm betting any of the money lines, I'm taking New Jersey to not for any other reason than they just kind of finish what they started last time. And I just think that plus 240 is fair. I might not end up having it though, because I just don't think it's worth it. And the 6 over under, I'm still high on. I don't really see any reason not to, unless if we do get some confirmation that Subban and or Ty Smith are back, which I don't believe we have yet, right? I don't think we see any reason for that. So I like the tempo here. I think it should be a pretty high flying game again. And, New Jersey rallied down, by 1 million and made it happen. So, this team has a lot of fight in them. Lindy Ruff, I think, is a good coach to get him fired up. And I'm hopeful that they can make a game out of it. Jack Hughes is just mispriced at plus 350 to score. He's mispriced on DraftKings in general at 4,300. The Pittsburgh guys are all very priced up and for good reason. You score a touchdown, you play the same team in the same type of matchup. Makes sense. I'm kind of thinking, instead of taking this really upper priced Pittsburgh one that we kind of saw not quite get the minutes once they got up, I'd rather just kind of get pieces of some cheaper Pittsburgh guys and, Carter, McCann, etc. But with all that being said, is there anything you want to get to start on this game and where you're DFS and betting wise?
I mean, my real lean for DFS is looking at the second line. Jason Zucker is, he's plus 190 to score, and I'm not touching that line, but it's just representative of the role he's seeing, the sort of player he is. Like, he's 3,600 on DraftKings, like just ridiculously cheap. And he's playing on a line with Jared McCann and Jeff Carter. Like, I'd like getting a mini stack of him with McCann because McCann's, he's priced up at almost 6K now, but he's really stepped into the Evgeny Malkin power play role. He's taking 30% of the power play unit's shots. Like, that's Ovechkin-like. It's not really something that you would expect given the name brand, but it's happening. And so, like, even though he's more expensive than he was, it's probably not even as expensive as he should be, given the matchup with one of the worst penalty kill teams in the entire league, not to mention a team that they just put up 7 freaking goals on, most of which were 5-on-5 goals. So it's just a really great spot for Pittsburgh all around. And I think that you can get creative with how you stack this game between the first and the second lines and guys like, Michael Matheson and Chris Letang on defense. So yeah, that's really where I'm going. I'm not toying around with any Devils. So I guess the Devils can be your slate, your pet of the slate, and I can have the Blue Jackets as mine.
All right, fine. And we can both lose money together. It's going to be great.
That's right. We'll all have, we'll have the perfect lineups besides like our terrible big underdog.
As far as shots, I still like Jack Hughes shot over 2.5. Easy money.
Jack Hughes, give me Sid. I'm not messing around with Gensel and Rust. I'm just taking Sid. He's great. I think he's the main shooter here. So let's do that.
That'll take us through the 7:00 games.
Look at that.
7 at 7. Just again, we haven't mentioned it in a while. 2 things about that. Number 1 is there's 3 late games. If you're taking guys on Dallas, on Vancouver, Ottawa, etc., make sure they're in their utility spots. And you're not, cannibalizing a utility spot, especially Colorado. I mean, that game last second could just fold or, something crazy. So if you're playing Colorado or St. Louis, make sure they're in utility and you can remove them and you have a lot more options to pick from. So with all that being said, let's get to the late games. We have Dallas at Detroit. Biggest note, slate breaking news. If you aren't in a Discord, we have one for you. Dallas without Hintz and Heiskanen kind of announced last minute. We had plenty of time to adjust our lineups, but going into this game, it definitely changes things. I still don't think it changes much for the line. I'm very bullish on this minus 182 Dallas. A little less bullish on the over-under because I just don't really trust Detroit to score goals. But what are your initial thoughts here? Obviously, Hintz has been hit or miss every game, so who knows? He more likely could be back. But what are your initial thoughts on the game, and where are you going with the bets?
Yeah, I think if I'm betting this game, I'm going with the under, and I'm going with a Jason Robertson shot prop. That's really, I think,
Yep.
all I want to mess with.
And Pavelski, don't miss it.
Hey, I didn't say that. That's all you, buddy.
Pavelski's my boy. He's back. He has returned, and I will have. And like I said, I bet it on the Morning Skate podcast. I guarantee it. And obviously, if Hintz ends up not playing, it'll change. I guarantee you, I will have Pavelski, Robertson, and Hintz in a lineup, or maybe more than one lineup. Like, especially because Hintz could have a day-to-day tag next to him, and then the lineups all lock at 7, and all of a sudden I have Hintz at like 0% against Detroit. I mean, that is happening. There is. And I'm going to feel so good about it. And I'm going to have him at 0.8% owned. And I'm just going to sit there and just print Benjamins. Just get to the printer and just print them.
Yeah. And if we do get no Miro, Dennis Gurianov steps into his kind of power play job. So that's something I really like. We're not actually sure what the deal is with Miro. So, hopefully he's okay. And it's just more of a maintenance type thing rather than like this nagging injury that Roope Hintz has, where apparently if he just played in every game, he would be dead, but it's not bad enough to, actually get it treated. So, who the hell knows there? There is some late news there on the Dallas side, which is keeping me away from the sides. Minus 180 on the road is kind of tough for me to lay at this current moment, but maybe with more news, you could, solidify that a bit more.
I mean, Dom Latushin, or how do you say it? Dom.
I mean, Latushin? This is the one name that it's actually okay.
He tweeted yesterday after Miro and Hintz were out. He said, "I would still bet my house that Dallas wins this game." And I was like, "Yep, I agree, and I still bet it, and I think Hintz is going to play." Bold. Dude, Dallas is going to make the playoffs. They're back. I mean, they're in and they're rolling. I just come on, Detroit's not stopping this train. If you go on Prize Picks, take Robertson or Pavelski. Take them both if you can. I just run it back. They're going to win big time.
All right. You heard it here first. So let's go to Colorado at St. Louis. Colorado dealing with some COVID related issues. Only minus 136 here on the road. That's awfully enticing. St. Louis plus 116, looking like they will be at full strength. Over under of 6 as well. I don't know. This game's confusing for a lot of reasons. I guess let's just get all the sort of news related stuff out of the way. Mikko Rantanen, a late addition to the COVID list. So he will be out for this game. That's obviously a huge loss for the Avs, but they still have Nate McKinnon. So is it actually that big of a loss where Colorado should be only minus 136 against a team in St. Louis that hasn't put together a strong couple weeks of hockey, since 2019? I don't really know, how much more in on this Colorado line I could be. I get, Rantanen's a great player, but I don't think he's what makes the team. And, they're going to be without Jonas Donskoy. Yes, and there even could be other players, that maybe pop up. Like you said, stuff could be out there. They're not out there, but stuff could be lurking still. So definitely keep an eye on it. But man, I don't trust St. Louis at all here. Give me the Colorado side. I kind of feel like I like the under. I don't know. Why put this game at a 6 and Carolina, Florida at a 5.5? I don't know. It doesn't really make much sense to me. So
I think right now, if you're, you get listening to this and you get Burakovsky at plus 240, don't go crazy, but I really do think he'll be with McKinnon and Landeskog. That would make the most logical sense to me. And plus 240 for a guy playing with McKinnon and Landeskog, or if you can get him for normally FanDuel will have him at 0.5 for a point, and it'll be near even money if not a plus, and just kind of snag that now. And obviously if there's a change, I think normally you can kind of cancel your bets if you got to or whatever, but even if not, he should be a bit of a bigger role, and I think he's a pretty good player in his own right, so I'm very in on that. In general.
The other thing is the power play job. Burakovsky and Rantanen play interchangeable roles on that, on their power play structure right now. So, like, I think that it'll be Burakovsky taking the cross-ice passes from McKinnon. And like, yeah, that is
right.
Oh boy, like, give me all of it. So
yeah, that if there's someone I want to take cross-ice passes from, McKinnon's right up there at the top of the list.
Actually, I don't know if I do, because he passes with an intent to kill. Like,
that's
he's
true.
firing lasers, but
I would just miss. But
yeah,
no,
anyway.
I mean, honestly, and just more to the point, McKinnon's shot prop over, and a lot of times they can get to the 3.5s, but without Rantanen out there cannibalizing some of it, even though Burakovsky should see a bit of an uptick himself, I think McKinnon might just get a little bit more behind him to say, hey, maybe I'll shoot this puck. My best buddy out there isn't there, so I really like that a lot. I like McKinnon on DraftKings in general as a play. So all of those things together, and I'm not trying to completely ignore the St. Louis side. I think there's some value here, especially with the potential of a couple defensemen missing from Bowen Byram and stuff like that from Colorado. But I don't think that pushes the needle enough for me to even consider going overboard with guys on St. Louis, but they're not terrible.
We do have one relevant piece of news on the St. Louis side, and that's a rejiggling of their top six. Tyler Bozak is on a nice little streak right now. He's actually centering Vladimir Tarasenko and Jaden Schwartz. So if you're looking for like a total bomb, a guy who's in a great role and definitely mispriced because of it, you can get his to score prop plus 425. I mean, Logan O'Connor, Jason Magna, Sammy Blais. Like, these are all guys with, worse odds to bet on than Tyler Bozak, who's playing alongside Schwartz and Tarasenko. Like, I think this is one that I'm jumping on as soon as I can, just because it doesn't reflect the current role he has. And that's really it. Not to mention, he's on a nice little streak himself right now. So I think that he's one guy who can sort of, maybe meet value just because he's so cheap in DFS and in bettings, all that. So anything else from this game?
No, I think we should get over to the final game of the night.
The absolute
Ottawa at Vancouver. Now, Vancouver, a decently heavy favorite. It's not crazy. Minus 143. They come off 2 wins against Toronto. They're going to be on almost every slate we talk about for a while, it feels like. And Ottawa plus 124. Obviously, Ottawa's bad, but they're playing against a Vancouver team that's been dealing with COVID and 3 games and 4 nights or 5 nights or something. So what are your thoughts here initially? I think we're both probably a little bit bullish on the over, I assume. But what are you thinking here?
Yeah, obviously Braden Holtby's been great for Vancouver, which is why they didn't give up 8 goals in both of their games back against Toronto. That's something that I'm not really going to try and play footsie with. Like, will they, won't they? I don't know. I kind of like the players in this game more than I like to bet the sides, if that makes sense, because I could see a world in which this game hits 4 goals and Ottawa wins, and Ottawa's still a great stack, or a game where Vancouver wins and 8 goals happen, where I still like players from both sides of this game. So it almost feels like a stay away for me, because Vancouver minus 143 sort of sits right in that zone of like where I would expect it, where it's like not really a long shot on Ottawa, but it's still a little bit too rich on Vancouver. So, definitely right price there for me. So I don't know if you had any game thoughts before we got to some players.
Just the over, really.
Okay.
Get the players.
All right. So on the player front, let's start with Vancouver, because they, their main news from Tuesday was Tanner Pearson actually replaced Jimmy Vesey on the top power play, and he scored twice. So it wasn't that the Jimmy Vesey call was wrong. It was just that we called the position, which then got transferred and, all that good stuff. So, it's another reason.
We were perfect.
Yeah, right. It's never our fault that Jimmy Vesey put up like a 0 or whatever. And it's certainly not my fault for playing him on the late slate like an idiot, because I'm like, well, I already pushed my stack in on him. Like, but, so don't be like me, I think is a good moral of that story. But anyway, Tanner Pearson, real cheap. I think he's just he's a good player. Like, look, he's not the best player in the world, but he's definitely good. He's a nice value. Plus 200 to score a goal given his power play job. Like, that feels okay to me.
But
so,
plus 195, it's kind of like, it's hard for me not to say Brady's a better play here. I mean, I like the Brady shot over, like you mentioned off the top here. 5 shots on goal a game against Vancouver, and that's not just because he's good, and it's not, I think, a fluke. I think it's just because, Vancouver gives up a lot of shots, and they're going to continue that even though it's Ottawa, and I think Brady could be a big beneficiary of that. So I just think that getting pieces of this game is going to be really important for my lineup construction. Brock Besser obviously being like the pivotal piece for Vancouver, and Brady being the pivotal piece for Ottawa. And, I think Ottawa has a lot of also value. I mean, they're one of the top 3. I already mentioned 2 teams in Tampa, and the Islanders have a lot of value, but man, Ottawa does too. And I want to be in on it because I think Vancouver will give up a lot against.
Yeah, neither of these teams play very well defensively, and it's up to the goalies, who historically have been very bad. So, I agree on the Brady Tkachuk thing. Him playing with Norris and Batherson, just great stuff. You might be able to take a complete flyer on a Eric Brandstrom, because he did see a shift of the top power play last game. It worked out pretty well for them. I'm pretty sure they scored on that shift. So maybe he replaces Thomas Chabot, if not all the time, at least some of the time. But in any case, he's super cheap in DFS. He's also plus 750 to score. Like I don't love betting defensemen to score because obviously they're defensemen. But Brandstrom's a guy who, will get involved in the play, does have a great offensive toolkit. So I think he's, the sort of player that I'm looking, plus 750, probably not every slate I'm betting it. But if you're looking for a longer type bet, I think he's a great way to sort of get that. Any other players that we missed? Anything before we sort of summarize our favorite bets of the night?
I think I could get talked into the Brock Besser shot over. I know he didn't quite hit it in the last game out against Toronto, but I think he'll be right back on the horse here, being the shot generator. So give me that really quickly, and then let's get to our favorite bets. I think my favorite bet, as far as money lines are concerned, boy, I think it honestly might be the Islanders, or Florida, or Colorado. Like those are the 3 that I think are my favorite money lines. I'll just give you a 3. Okay. Islanders, Florida, Colorado. There you go.
I think my favorite bet of the night that I will have the most, let's say, monetary value on will be the Carolina Florida over. Again, all the underlying numbers have been great in that series. It's hit 6 and 4 of 6 matchups to this point. And I think there are numerous pieces that I could see being, the sort of players that, score multiple goals or whatever else. So I think that's one way to sort of get blanket coverage of a game that I really like. Just take the over. So Florida, Carolina. And then I think the second one that I feel strongest about is that Colorado money line. Minus 136 just seems a little bit overreactive to the Blues' recent run of form and the COVID situation in Colorado. But frankly, it didn't seem like it was that bad. Like, for example, Mikko Rantanen didn't even test positive. It's more of a contact tracing thing. So there's no like war stories like there were out of Vancouver, which was really unfortunate. So I think Colorado just offers some great value here.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as player props, I'll have the point over on shots. I'll have Robertson or not probably but the Pavelski over. And there was one goal prop I really liked. Now I'm trying to rack my brain around it. I'll try to think of it.
Yeah, shots for me, McKinnon, of course, he's really, really good. Give me Bjorkstrand. Like, I know I mentioned him a little bit, but he's just a player I really like. I think this is a fine spot for him. And then Sidney Crosby. Just, it'll be tough odds, but I think he gets there. He has his classic couple points, 3-4 shots on goal. Just, has a nice game all around here against the Devils. So,
Jack used to score Braden Point first goal.
Yeah.
Those were the two. There we go. Okay. Got him in there.
Okay. So let's quickly sort of recap the DFS stacks. Of course, we got to a lot of those as we went through the slate. But DJ, let's start us off with a couple of those.
Yeah, I'm going to start off with, the game I want to stack the most is Toronto-Winnipeg. And I think if you're trying to make it all work together, the best way to do it would be Tavares, Nylander, probably just fade defenseman in that one, and maybe consider Rasmus Sandin at minimum salary. He did see some run with the power play units, so you could consider it. He does have some offensive upside there. And then the other side with Winnipeg, the Scheifele, Connor, either Morrissey or Wheeler, to try to round that out. I like that game in general. I like those two units. I kind of forgot to mention that I like Nylander a lot with his shot prop, just because I don't know if we'll get it, but I do really, really, really like it as well. Him and Tavares, I think that they bode really well on this one.
Yeah. So sort of seconding the Nylander Toronto stuff. I think that DFS wise, we saw this work on the Tuesday slate. It just feels like a really nice slate again for a couple onslaught type plays. And I think Pittsburgh will be the first place I go there. Sid, Jared McCann, the two guys, and then build around that with guys like Jason Zucker and Jake Gensel and Chris Letang and Brian Roth. Like, there's so many good options. Mike Matheson, cheap defenseman. Like, if they score another, even it doesn't have to be 7 goals. It can be 4 or 5 goals. If you get guys who are in on all 4 of those goals, you'll have a good team going. So I don't really think you need to strictly be looking at just straight line stacks or straight power play stacks. Like, mix and match and get some combinations in there, because 1, it'll be unique, and 2, if you're more betting on the game situation more than you are like individual players. So, and sorry, you said 2. Who was your second one? Who were you 2? I guess
2 already, but it's okay. I'll say one different one.
No. Who are the 2 you said? I forgot them, and I didn't want to. Yeah.
Winnipeg and Toronto. The Winnipeg one, Toronto 2. Yeah.
Little game stack. Okay.
That's what I was saying. I think I'll have it. I really do. Like, I think you could get that for sure. So,
and then take advantage of the first game without Mikko Rantanen and just play Colorado's first line. It'll be McKinnon, Landeskog, and then insert value piece. We think it'll be Andrei Burakovsky. So keep an eye, make sure that's not overwhelmingly popular. There are number of sites that have good projection, ownership type stuff. But with 10 games, I'm not worried about it. And I think that Burakovsky just, he's such a good value. That line is so good. And I don't think Rantanen, matters that much in terms of their, when you offset that with some cheaper price tags on a guy like Burakovsky. So that'll be my second stack.
Awesome. Yeah. With all that being said, definitely, like I said, you just check out Prize Picks. Check if it's available in your state, obviously, but it is just so worth the investment of time to look through. Like, I really think it's just, if you put in all the time and effort that you're already putting in, you're listening to this podcast, you're probably doing a lot of other stuff as well. I just feel like you could be missing a lot of, the information gap that I like to talk about. And these sites that have something that you might see like, how is it priced this way, and just get in on it. Sometimes we find it with props. We can find it over on the Prize Pick board as well. So I definitely just want to give another ring endorsement. I am just counting down the days until New York gets passed with legalizing of online gambling, and I'm really hoping they jump in over here. So as we talked about in the Morning Skate Pod, I'll get the Brinks truck out, back it up, and just deposit it in over there so we can have some fun. Is there anything else you want to get to before we shut it on down? Get to Thursday.
Just make sure you're following us on Twitter. I'm at Fake Mood. DJ's at DJ_Mitchell94. Make sure if you're in the DFS, you're checking out the Morning Skate podcast. We do a deep dive on basically every Tuesday, Thursday slate. So always a great way to sort of get some initial exposure to the slate, know where to look in addition to this show for DFS folks. And yeah, that's about it. So again, thank you to Prize Picks for sponsoring this show, and best of luck on Thursday, everybody. See ya.